Hi, everybody. This is Keanu Reeves. And you don't realize it yet. Or maybe you do. Anyways, right now you're watching The Dorkening with me, Keanu Reeves. But I'm sad right now.
Hi, this is Ron Garney. I'm reaching out from beyond the ether, looking to talk to you all on
Oh, love it, love it, love it. We've created a friggin' monster.
Happy muted.
Yeah, he knows that.
Again?
Yeah. Sure,
Oh my
it's an accident. Yeah, okay. Anyway, happy Tuesday, everybody. You are watching Splash Pages. My name's Leo. I'm the monkey behind the keyboard here. We have a fabulous show for you, as always. An incredible guest. Before we get into that, here we go, Kari.
Hey, everybody. How's it going? Happy Tuesday. Ratatosker and I are here. We read some great stuff by our wonderful guest. Hey, Tom Dog. How's it going? And yeah, can't wait to share everything with you. I have questions because, of course, I have questions. I always have questions. But you know who else might have some questions? I bet Jar Jar does.
I've got a few questions. Just a few. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the show. I have to say this opening is one of my favorite openings of all time. That was great between Ron and Drew. I think we should just end the show there. We've only got down to go now. But with that said, over to you, Drew.
Thank you so much, everybody. I'm just doing my best Ron Garney. I'm sorry, I got to switch hands. Hey, how you doing? What's up, everybody? Hey, everybody. So thank you so much. It's Tuesday. Clearly, you canceled your subscription to some streaming service, so you ended up here. We have a great guest. We saw him at Terrificon, and he was just so delightful that we asked him to come back, and he said yes. So that's a verbally binding agreement. So we got him there. He's here. He already has in our probably best opening bumper ever. Everybody, the artist of Berserker, tons of stuff for Marvel, DC, the great, the somewhat well-rested, still hilarious Ron Garney.
You started that opening. You said my breast, Ron Garney. You said.
Oh no!
If you slow down the video, you're going to see you go like this a little bit.
Oh boy! Oh my!
A Freudian slip there.
I don't know.
You two need a show. Just be together and.
I don't know. No. I'm not pretty enough. I shaved my beard.
Look at Jar. I like Jar Jar. It looks like the Millennium Falcon or something.
I know, right? I get all the compliments from my room. I wish it was in better. I wish I had more comics up.
Well, summer's over, so you can put them back up now.
That's true. It'll be nice and cool now. So I won't have to worry about comics falling from the sky.
What's that, Rock?
I said I like Kari's draperies in the back. They look like Celtic or something.
Mm-hmm.
Norse.
Norse, nice.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep. She's our Dark Lord.
And you got Leo, who's got can't see what's on his shelf there. Oh, okay, some Star Wars stuff. Yeah. Nice. And Drew just has a big wall.
Yep. Just a wall, sir. No bricks here. Just windows into my soul. Before we start, just out of curiosity, what's everybody drinking tonight?
Polar Seltzer.
Oh, very nice. Wow. It's a good vintage, right?
Oh, yes. Since 1923.
My choice is Uncle Nearest.
There you go. Okay. We're showing up.
Oh, nice.
Very nice. Kari, what do you got?
God, Ashes is going to be so disappointed in me. But I don't have any bourbon right now, so I'm drinking the $2 Chuck Charles Shaw Shiraz because I pick it up every time I go to Trader Joe's because it's $4 a bottle and it's not terrible. So it's like, okay.
the little things of peanut butter whiskey.
Oh,
Not,
nice.
I got to find some, man, because that sounds delicious. I'm just drinking some Gentleman Jack, good old Tennessee whiskey, everybody.
And some Woodford
Oh.
Reserve. They have.
And
Yeah, let's go.
nice.
So, a friend of
also
mine.
Ratatosker is drinking as well because he's an alcoholic squirrel.
Oh my God.
He's got some moonshine tonight, so things are gonna get fun over at the Kari place.
And I went to the South Carolina Comic Con, and he had some moonshine down there. It was unbelievable.
Oh my God, yo.
Drinking gallons of it. It tasted so good.
Dude,
I remember when I was at C2E2 back in 2020, they had a DC panel, and I think like it was after hours. And I think I heard, because I wasn't there, but my friend was there, and he was like, oh yeah, Tom King got so wasted. He's just sitting there at the panel and he's just spilling DC secrets. I was like, Tom, they're not going to let us come back next year. You need to chill. Like, somebody get him a Fresca. And it was apparently like the greatest thing. And I was like, and I missed it. It's my first time in Chicago, and I was more concerned with pizza. No regrets. No.
Kari can add this to the Stories of Leo, book. But my grandfather was a moonshiner, and apparently he.
This does not surprise me at all.
Yeah, yeah. Like Prohibition era. He blew up his still once. Fun times.
Wow. So
and lived.
Yeah.
Did Grandpa have like some copper embedded in his skull after that? Like,
he was crazy. In his older years. He would drive around with a lawnmower, and he'd always have like firecrackers on him, like the old style, and he'd just light them and drop them at your feet.
Boom.
How many members of your family have not tried to kill you or cause you serious injury in some way, Leo? Ron, you don't know this, but like his dad has hit him in the head with a backhoe more than once. Bought him things like a four-wheeler that didn't have brakes. A three-wheeler. Oh yeah, sorry, more dangerous three-wheeler.
The go-kart didn't have brakes. Yeah.
Oh, the go-kart.
So you're very close with your family.
Oh,
yeah. I'm actually, you're in Connecticut, right, Ron? Yeah, I'm in Connecticut as well. Grew up on a small family farm.
Where?
Montville.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Whereabouts are you?
Well, I'm in New Haven, but I went to school with a kid from Montville. His name was Eugene or something, but that was back in the early '80s.
Yeah,
I've gone up there a few times. It's nice up there.
Yeah, totally.
No, Leo, all you're going to say is you grew up there. We're moving on because we're not drinking.
Yeah, we're here on tonight, guys. I don't know if you noticed.
No, I do have a question though, based on Leo's question. When you asked him, like, well, you're from Connecticut. Is that like supposed to mean like, oh, your parents tried to hurt you too, didn't they? It's okay? Or what was well, you're from Connecticut. You'd understand. Or where was that going? Is that the right direction?
Leo,
I'm asking Leo, like, why he was like, you're from Connecticut, so you'd get it. No, I was asking you.
Yeah,
we all have our histories, Kari.
Yeah. Hey, Connecticut in the '80s was a crazy time,
I'm a little older than you guys. So.
Leo, we're going to shut down your story in crazy times because Ron doesn't need to know that one. Okay, we're not opening that door. We've opened that door. We've documented that door. We're not going there. Okay, This isn't about Ron. This isn't about you and your, Hunger Games childhood. Okay.
See, the perfect follow-up to what you just said would be if he got up and walked across the room and he had no pants on.
No. That's not a Leo move. That's very much that's a me move, but I wore pants today. So,
Well, that's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wearing pants.
Yeah, exactly. But
thank you for
who wants to start? Because I can start, but I don't have to.
I was figuring, are we going from the beginning? Like, what
are
was Ron?
Are we being recorded yet?
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
All
back.
right, let's
Yeah.
get this show on the
Oh,
road.
we've been on for 12 minutes.
Yeah. People are watching, you know.
Come on.
So
Everybody's enjoying the banter.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, I want to see my own opening, actually.
oh,
You will. We'll send it
multiple
to you.
times.
Oh, don't worry, Ron.
It'll
we'll
be there.
No, trust me. When I'll ask Leo, can I get that? I want to send that to him separately. I got your email, buddy. I got you.
Oh,
You'll get that email directly.
yeah, we'll make a short of it. Yeah. But Jar Jar, were you starting with Berserker or how you
I
started in
was
general?
going to start with how he got started in general in comics from like being a kid. Probably, I'm assuming as a kid you were always drawing and stuff. How did it end up that Ron Garney was like, I'm going to be a comic book artist, aka
Well,
slash writer?
That didn't happen until I was out of college, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I was drawing, since I was little. At one point in high school, I wanted to be a fantasy illustrator like Frank Frazetta,
Oh, nice.
Morris, and Michael Whalen, and guys like that. Don Mates, who was actually, I think, from Connecticut at one point. But yeah, that's really what I wanted to be. So I was predominantly a painter, oil painting and things like that, doing fantasy paintings.
Cool.
And I went to college, and all my paintings got stolen.
Oh my God.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
everything from my childhood got stolen. It was I was in an apartment building after the dorms, and all my stuff was in one of those cages, locked cages in the basement that you keep your stuff in. And I went down there when I was moving out, and it had been broken into, and it was all gone, which was pretty heartbreaking. It wasn't long after that, I think it was in '84, that I kind of discovered comics because I was bartending, and a fellow bartender had a comic behind the bar, and he was reading it. I'm like, oh, what's that? And he said, oh, it's this comic called Secret Wars. And I was like, oh my God, let me look at that. And I looked at it, and I read some comics when I was young. I remember certain particular ones that stuck out, some Marvel stuff, and then other things like Gold Key comics, and I do remember Jack Kirby's art, and the Thing fighting the Hulk on the George Washington Bridge, stuff like that. And that stuck out in my mind. I remember reading some Dracula, and then I was really into creepies and eerie's. This is all back in the early '70s, late '60s, early '70s. And through the '70s, the creepies and eerie's, and I was into Godzilla and Star Trek and all that. So, but I also was into sports, and I also, was into music and was in a band, and I'm in a band now, actually. And so I kind of forgot about all that, by the time I went to college. But I still had fancied the idea of playing around with being a fantasy illustrator or some kind of illustrator, paperback covers and things. So anyway, the guy had the comic behind the bar, and I looked at it, and it kind of brought back those memories a little bit. But it had been over, like a decade since I really looked at them. And so I asked him where he got it. 24-hour store down the road, down the street. So I went down there after work, and I started digging into like old comics and bought a bunch. And the first one I read was actually a John Byrne comic. It was a Fantastic Four, and the issue was called Evening of the Witch. And in the issue, Byrne had done a narrative across the top of the pages, and then another narrative across the bottom. And across the bottom was Reed, I guess, and Sue and Franklin. They had moved into Connecticut, and they were under assumed identities. And it was really interesting. Right away, I was really fascinated with it, and I kind of got hooked right away. I couldn't wait to read the next one. And on the top was another narrative where the Thing, and he catches Johnny Storm with Alicia, and they get into a fight, So these two narratives are going across, and I thought it was brilliant, It was like really just like watching the best TV show I could imagine, And Byrne's stuff was very addictive because of the simplicity of his faces, and you could, it's like project your own. You can project personalities onto simple faces. And he didn't use a lot of detail like Neil Adams or something, even though he was influenced by Neil. But anyway, so I got really into it, and the other thing I picked up was Walt Simonson's Thor, and I was really hooked on that. And I would bring the comics to the park every time I got them, and I couldn't wait for the next month. And I was reading Thor versus Beta Ray Bill, and I loved Greek mythology and mythology in general. I was a big mythology guy, and comics were all a short form of that. So I really got hooked right away, and so I started toying with the idea of doing that for man, I could actually pursue this, because I actually thought I could. I toyed with the idea of getting into movies, and because I like storytelling, and it was all there. It was a short form of movie making, and storyboards, and and it was just brilliant, I thought. And so I asked the store owner how to get into Marvel, and there was a Marvel tryout book on the shelf, and I entered that. It was a contest they were having to find new talent. And so I entered it, and I sent it in like the day before the deadline, so I don't even know if it got there on time. But I didn't win. Mark Bagley actually won it. And
oh, wow.
So in the meantime, I was talking to the guy at the counter again. It was like 2:00 in the morning, and he told me that he knew that a guy named Mike Zeck lived in the area. Mm-hmm. He just happened to be the guy who drew the Secret Wars issue I read. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, really? So I looked. He lives in. I looked him up. He lives 6 minutes from my house. So wow. I'm like, oh my God, he's right down the road in West Haven. I was right in Amity, which is the next town over, which is like 6 minutes away. So I called him up on the phone, believe it or not. And I left him a message, said, hey, I'm a local guy. Could you look at my work? And he called me back, and he said, yeah, send it to me. And I sent it to him, and he seemed to think I was pretty good. And so he called me back. When he called me back, he gave me some pointers, things I needed to work on. And so I did. And in the meantime, I told the bartender, he started coming to my bar and hanging out a little bit. And then he invited me up to a convention to sit behind the table with him and draw. And that's how good he thought I was. Wow. Which was unbelievable to me. I was like, what? To me, Marvel was like this unattainable, it was like going to Oz, basically, Marvel, like Emerald City to me. That's how it was almost mythical in a way, Spider-Man. Because back in the 70s, that stuff was so, visceral. The Marvel at that time was just something so special. And so to me, it was just a near impossible thing I just didn't think it would ever happen. But here I was hanging out with a guy who worked for Marvel, and there was an editor there, and another guy worked for DC, inking Batman. And, so it was pretty incredible that I got kind of brought in thanks to him. And so eventually the day came where he called me up and said, hey, I'm going into Marvel. Why don't you come with me? I'm like, hell yeah. So he brought in my samples, and we went to Marvel and DC, and DC offered me Animal Man right away out of the starting gate. But I had to prove I could meet the deadline. So I had to get in 8 pages within a week, which I did. I busted my hump on it, and got in the 8 pages. But when I brought him in, they loved him. But the guy that week they originally asked him to turn it down changed his mind. And that was Chaz Trog, and Grant Morrison was writing it. So in the meantime, I had a couple offers from Marvel. So G.I. Joe was the first one, and Moon Knight was the other one. And I took G.I. Joe because it was the very first thing I was offered, other than the Animal Man thing, which changed. And the G.I. Joe thing was a real trial by fire, because I had to make sure all the vehicles and the characters, because they had toy licenses with the comic.
Right.
So the vehicle had to be right down to the nut and bolt, and they had to have it approved. And so I was like, what? I had never drawn a comic book before in my life, a full book. And here I got thrust right into it, like right into the grinder, to get this thing done on time and to make sure every vehicle was, and It was tough. I almost didn't think I was going to do it because it was so much work to do. But I just grit my teeth and said, you know what, grow up and get in there. There's an opportunity you waited for so long. So just do this thing and don't give up the opportunity. Because you got to understand, I went from being a nightclub manager and bartender and things like that and having a nightlife, being around 500 people a night, social, to being around nobody all day and night. And so it was a real tough adjustment for me. I was like, I remember sitting there like, what? Like it was weird to just such a complete polar opposite lifestyle.
Oh yeah, culture shock.
Yeah, it really was. So it was quite an adjustment. So I had a rough time of it early on. But again, for me, the career was more important, and I had the opportunity, and here I am talking to you guys. So,
so quick question for you on that. When you were saying about how they had the toys, you had to make everything exact. Did they provide models and everything for you? Did they give you stuff so that you had? So if they're like, you have to make it exactly like this, that they gave you the thing it had to be exactly like?
Yeah, they sent me. I still have them up in the attic to this day.
Oh, wow.
I have a bunch of action figures that were never taken out of the boxes, and I just used they were through the
Ron, my buddy, my friend.
Yeah. So I don't know if they're worth anything, but I had a lot of the characters.
Oh, they're worth
something. I don't have all of them, but I have a few. So yeah.
Cool.
So yeah,
a few schmeckles here and there.
Oh, there's unopened toys. Well, the toy market in general is pretty high, but you know how they do CGC grading for comics.
Yeah.
They do something similar now for toys.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, the whole if you have unopened
box, I mean, I've just been sitting in a box for 30-something years. I mean, so they're in perfect condition.
Yeah, I'd say definitely do your due diligence. Before you
go look through them.
Yeah. Yeah, might have, a couple, 20, 30 grand or something.
So slightly off topic, what instruments and or positions in the band do you have?
I was
do you do multiple things or?
Yeah, I mean, I can play piano, bass, guitar, and some drums. But I had a band in high school, and then I had a band 20-something years ago in the late 90s, early 2000s. And we recorded an album, actually. Our band was called Ronin. And I wrote all the original songs. I started the band. Me and actually a fellow by the name of Howard Porter, who actually works for DC.
Yo, yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. So Howard and I had shared a studio together as well for a few years. Mm-hmm. And so we had a band together. He lived near me, and so it started out just he and I getting together and jamming. And I've been playing guitar since I was in 5th grade. And I, again, like comics, I kind of lost track of it for guitar less time. And then I got back into it, and Howard and I started jamming. And then before we knew it, we were playing at clubs all over New Haven County, and with a whole band. It was crazy.
That's
how
cool.
It all came together. And so recorded an album, and then so as of recently started a band again, because it's in your blood. You can't get rid of it, And so I love writing songs, and we're doing a lot of covers right now, but we're in the process of writing some originals and some more originals in addition to the ones I wrote that long ago. And actually, I wrote a song, and Chris Daughtry, I don't know if you know Chris Daughtry is. I got him to sing at one of my songs.
Oh, wow.
Because I had a TV show in the works called Men of Wrath, based on the book I did with Jason Aaron. And it was getting picked up by USA Network. And then the Me Too movement happened and shot it right in the ass. Because they said even the fact that the name Men was in the title, they nixed it at that, because of that whole Harvey Weinstein thing. So in the meantime, I had written a song for it, and I wanted to use it in the opening credits, and they loved it. And I sent it. Jim Lee knew Chris Daughtry, and I'm friendly with Jim Lee, and
of course
he hooked me up with him, and Chris loved the song, and he sang it, sent me a copy of it. It's really good. with his voice on it. I mean, it's just amazing. So, yeah, so I'm
Really
back
cool.
in the band again, and we're actually playing next week at a festival here in Connecticut. So we played a few other places. We just got started again. So
since you're back,
I play guitar. I'm sorry, I play guitar as well, and lead guitar,
Do you sing?
acoustic guitar. I do backup vocals. We have a lead singer. Yeah.
So when you guys are doing shows and whatnot, is Dog Star going to be opening for you? Because you were tight with
It's
Keanu.
funny you mentioned that. When I saw Keanu, we hung out at Mohegan Sun, or no, this was in San Diego. We talked about my band a little bit. I think I had sent him one of the videos of us playing Plush by Stone Temple Pilots. And he asked if we do covers. And for a second, I thought I think if we did a lot of covers, maybe he'd ask if we'd open for them, which would be amazing. But we have a ways to go before that happens. So if that ever happens, but it would be cool. Yeah, they're great. Dog Star is amazing. I couldn't believe how good they were. We saw them up at Foxwoods, and Keanu is an exceptional bass player. I didn't realize how good he was until I saw him live.
Now, how did you get started with Keanu?
It was like a bolt of lightning hit my backyard, and he came walking out of it.
Nice.
Sir, I'm sorry. It's called. I'm sorry. I know movies. It was a phone booth. Came out. It was. Whoa, we have arrived.
Honestly, it was funny. It's sort of an interesting story because I was leaving Marvel. I've been with Marvel for over 30 something years. And I wasn't really happy with it anymore, and for a variety of reasons. And I've been there so long, and I knew I'm not getting any younger. I'm not a spring chicken, so I wanted to maybe do something of my own, and and just take time to see what I want to do. So I wasn't going to renew my contract, and my contract was up. So in the meantime, right when I was working on Juggernaut, which was the last thing I'd done for Marvel,
right,
I got a call or an email from somebody at Boom Studios, and they said, "Hey, can we talk to you about something?" And I said, "Yeah, give me a shout." So I got a call from this guy Matt Gagnon, and he said, "So listen, we're doing this book here with Keanu Reeves." I'm like, "Okay, the movie star," and he's like, "Yeah, he really loves your work," and he's like, we were wondering what your availability is. And I'm like, what? Wait a minute, slow down. I'm like, it was getting surreal right away. And so that's actually Raphael Grandpa's beautiful cover.
Yeah.
So anyway, I said, well, listen, I thought he was just branding something. I didn't, I said, I didn't really hear that from him, so, cause I just kind of was bluffing them, and I thought they were just saying it. And I just thought it was, because it was just too weird. And so I just thought he was branding something the way William Shatner did Tech Wars or whatever it was.
Right.
And so I initially turned it down, but they said, well, can we at least just do a Zoom call with you and talk, give you more information on it? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I'll listen to what you have to say. But I had fully intended in my head to turn it down because I wanted to do my own thing. So that Wednesday comes 1:00. I press the Zoom meeting button, and there's Keanu staring at me, which was really trippy.
Wild.
And him and a few of the other guys, Matt Kent too, And so, yeah, we got into it for like 45 minutes, and he was giving me the pitch and said, "I want you," and So they must have told him. I didn't hear that from him, and. So I heard it from him, and it was, what am I going to say? So he's like, well, if you decide to do this, blah, 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 blah. And he's trying to sweeten the pot. He's like, we'll go for a motorcycle ride because we're talking about motorcycle. And I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, that sounds great. And so that's basically how it started. I mean, what am I going to turn down that guy? It's like,
no.
So, and it sounded cool. I mean, it sounded like it was very exciting, and I did tell them I needed a couple months to decompress because I've been working on books for so long, but I could see they were really frothing at the mouth to get working with me on it. And so I only took 2 weeks off, and I got in, and then all the stuff you're posting now, I got right into it. That's the first issue. And there's Keanu right there.
There you go.
Speaking of
did
Keanu,
you sit there and study his face or something?
Yeah, I deliberately didn't want it. You can see it transition a little bit. I deliberately didn't use photographs because I noticed I didn't want it to look like Keanu Reeves, the actor. I wanted it to breathe as a character on its own. Mm-hmm. But we would Skype a lot, and I would be looking at his face, just studying it with my eyes, and then it would filter through my own imagination. And the funny thing is how much it does look like him in spots anyway. Yeah. But more of an animated version of him. So there's a couple in there that look exactly like him, but you can see in other spots where it's filtering through the character. You can see the character itself coming through a little more, where it's not the actor. And that was my intention. It was to have it be more believable as a character and not Keanu Reeves playing a character, even though he's the obvious impetus and guy who's going to play him. So yeah, that's basically how it all started. And there you go. It's nice to see it on the screen like this. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And
seeing. Oh, sorry.
No, Kari, you go.
Oh, well, okay. Just real short. Seeing it immediately, you go, oh, this is exactly why he wanted you and was taking the time to. Will you really please think about it? Come on, because good God, this is wonderful. It is like a chef's kiss of a match. You're just perfect for this.
Thank you so much. Yeah, well, it almost didn't happen because they had another artist on it, and it fell through for whatever reasons. I mean, I know the reason, but it's not my business to discuss it. But
right.
But he had drawn the whole first issue, from what I gather.
Oh wow!
But then it fell through, so they dumped it, and so they were had been floundering for about a year.
Mm-hmm.
And and then they asked me to come in, and I got this stuff done in a couple of months. I think this 48-pager, and we launched it. And I realized too that when they said he loves your work, I was like, what? I couldn't fathom the idea that Keanu Reeves was a comic book reader and was digging my work, and I was like, well, it was very trippy because if you knew, like me and Howard, for instance, I was always riffing on Keanu, like imitating him, before I ever knew him, like, because I love the movie Devil's Advocate, so I was always imitating his accent in that, and other movies, and Constantine and things like that. So it was just it's so trippy to hear this, like it was almost, it's one of those things you feel like it was kind of meant to be, I guess. But
try to do your impression for him.
You know what scares me, John?
That was great.
She gets better. I lose the taste, and I hate her for it.
Oh my God! Wow.
And I imitated him on a couple of interviews on we were standing next to each other.
Yeah.
Like, hey, Garney. Yeah, he always says, "Hey, Garney," whenever we get on. Like,
what?
That reminds me. A long time ago, we had the guy who played Keanu on Mad TV, and he did a bumper for us. So I think I'll fit that into your video here.
Oh my God! Yes.
Yeah. Just
go ahead.
Go for it. Well, I was just going to ask real quick on page 1. Was this direction for the third panel here with him on the bench, or?
Yeah, it was. There was some reference to it in the script. I mean, interestingly enough, I didn't know any of this kind of lore about Keanu. I mean, I wasn't a follower to that degree. Like, I knew his movies, and I would riff on his movies and stuff. So they put that in script, saying that, what they call it, sad Keanu. Could you do a sad Keanu, sad Keanu panel? And I was like, what's that? And then I saw the picture, and I was like, oh, okay. And it's, I did it a little differently, and he's a little, actually looking at that, I drew him way too bulky there. I'm going to critique myself, and I put so much work into the backgrounds and the rain and everything. I wanted it to feel really authentic. But yeah, so that's what that was about. It was supposed to be a little reference to that.
Your
I'd say that is
the book is beautiful. Are beautiful. Sorry.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead, Kari.
I'd say instead of sad Keanu, that is utterly desolate Keanu.
Yeah, more angsty, angry.
It's
just
the rain. Just I don't give a shit, dude. Just,
yeah, and I put the lightning bolt.
It's lovely though.
And I tried to really, it's interesting to see what the other guy had drawn, because I didn't see what the other guy had drawn, and then what I had drawn. Just the differences between it. So, but I put the lightning bolt behind the panels just to introduce the character, because he was born of, of that. So
right. But and then kind of switching gears just briefly, because I know when we had our interview, I brought up, like, again, I'm a huge Ultimate fan, and I know you had worked with Jason on Ultimate Captain America, and some of us hadn't. Like Kari has read it before, but someone like Leo had never read the book, and I seem to recall.
Shame.
Yeah, shame, Leo. But what was it, Leo? You said that you were just kind of blown away by like how much Nuke, or the ultimate version of Nuke, was just trying so hard to break Captain America, and Captain Kari's like, "Fuck you, man! I'm Captain America." Like, you think everything you're telling me I didn't already know, or worse? Like, please.
Yeah, Jason really did an amazing job writing that character. It was one of my favorite projects I'd worked on for the story. I love that incarnation, the other universe version of Cap, Ultimate, and because he was really tough and gritty, and kind of identified with it a little more than the Boy Scout, just really well written. And I loved, for me, making comics should feel like you're watching a movie. And Jason is, he has a really great literary sense. He's also influenced by really good good movies, obviously Apocalypse Now being one of them.
Oh yeah.
The whole story has an Apocalypse Now flavor to it. So I was really into the story. And then the fight scenes, and I love that you're showing this. This is great. I haven't looked at this in so long. Yeah. I had a ball drawing it, really making the movie come to life, and that's the thing that really jazzes me, is making it real, making it actually come to life, and you're in it. And like even that top panel where he's coming out of the shaft, the stairwell, and seeing the depth in the city, and it's a real space,
Right.
I just love doing that, really creating the movement and the reality.
Well, you mentioned Jason's writing, but the story was great, but even better was your portrayal of what Cap is going through. Later on in the storyline, when he's in that cell and kept on trying to break free and everything, you conveyed everything. There was feeling in your drawings.
Thank you. Yeah, excuse me. It's important to for the reader to feel something. It can't be just bland drawings. You have to really emphasize it. It could be the most subtle look. It's one of the things I love about Clint Eastwood. He's not Daniel Day-Lewis, but what he does really well is he conveys a lot with very little.
Right.
Just a glance, or and I try to do that in the drawings as best I can. Even her face there, just a little bit in behind the eyes. Her eyes are kind of, scowled in, and just the littlest things make a difference. Attitude and what you're reading, and so you believe these characters are existing.
Right.
So.
You really seem to have a mind out for what the letterer is going to need as well. In all of your illustrations, you have perfect space for which can be difficult. I know there are a lot of people, and that ends up with like, oh, I had this great piece of art, but somebody had to put a boom somewhere, and so it covered up this section of it, you know?
Yeah, so you have to understand composition. I mean, it's not just for, for the lettering, obviously, but if you understand composition and how things work in composition, like I loved studying photography, like Ansel Adams, or, and how things off center make it more interesting, and tilting the camera, and all kinds of shapes that define the panel in an abstract way, which you need to account for some negative space in there. And so I always think in terms of things off center, to the left, to the right, but never really, I don't show too much dead center if I don't have to. Because it just makes for more interesting composition. And so because of that, I'm conscious of where the lettering could go. Sometimes I still get annoyed because I'm like, why did you put the balloon there when you have all this space over here? But for the most part, they pick up on it pretty well. So thank you for that.
Yeah. And yeah, go Jar.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, like, especially with this story, like I said, when you first read it, like I said, I just read it. I was like, I'm a huge Ultimate fan, so I'm like, oh wow, this is great. This is New Age. And then when I reread it later on, I noticed more of like the Apocalypse Now ish references and things, and I was like, the additional levels to it. And I just, like, again, I know that's some of that's you and some of that's Jason, but it was just one of those things. I was like, this is why, personally speaking, I've always loved the Ultimate Universes, because you had the freedom to take the character there. In the mainstream Marvel, you obviously couldn't, because their Captain America isn't as brash, somewhat conservative.
It's a good excuse to get away with it. It's a different universe, different alternate reality.
Yeah,
it's a brilliant sort of tactic to get away with a lot of things, sometimes too much, I think. But in this case, it really works well. It'd be interesting to see them do that with Superman or something like that, which they might have. I don't follow it that much. So.
Injustice was kind of only it was ridiculously dark.
You mean, is that, well, I remember watching a cartoon of Superman where the Joker kills Lois or something, or.
Yep. That's Injustice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he becomes like a complete mental case, I guess.
Oh yeah. It's very dark, very, very dark.
And he, I watched some of the animated versions of that on YouTube. Like, wow, something I'm not. And actually, doesn't what's her name kill Batman? Shoots him in the head or something.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But and then kind of moving on, and then you also did a similar, just fantastic work on Wolverine Weapon X, with again pairing up with Jason, and I know that was a big hit. And Kari has some questions about that. So Kari, take it away.
Well, first off, I love Jaron Aaron's work.
Jaron Nation.
But yeah, he's it's the Jason Aaron Nation. There we go. That's what I was going for. But he has this habit of using different artists for each arc of something that he's writing. And so he had you do a couple, like you started this one, and then there was a break when there was the mental hospital, which you at least got to build it, and then somebody else took over, and then you take back over again later as the different arcs go through. So is that something that you're used to doing with him? I mean, are you like one of his regular on call? Like,
I was the first artist he worked with on an arc, which was Get Mystique. He had done one story, I think, but then we did Get Mystique. Wow. And so that was his first actual arc. I mean, I had already been in the business for a long time. And then, usually, like with any success, I mean, it was so successful that they wanted us to do more, and he was happy to do it because I helped him, make it a success, evidently, and so Marvel thought that, and so they just asked us to keep doing these things. So I don't know how much of that was him or not, but we just kept working together. It's just one of those things. I don't know how it happened. I think we just enjoyed each other's work. We didn't talk a whole lot. I mean, he's not a very talkative guy. He's very quiet. But I loved the way he writes. And so I really I loved Get Mystique was one of my favorite things I had drawn too. I loved Wild West stuff. I'm a big Western fan. And we got to jump back and forth in time in that one. And, and then this came along. So
I was going to ask you, after reading Berserker, what your favorite time period is to actually like do the art for, because like you did well with all of them, but like it's really intense stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there was a few different spots in there for sure. I mean, did you guys happen to read the latest 48 pager we did called Lost Book of B?
No,
I did.
No.
Yeah, you'll love that if you love time. When I had mentioned to Matt and Keanu, I said I love doing period pieces, and I mean that. It's just because in each era has such a particular feel and look to it, and whether it be the 20s and 30s or the Wild West in the 1800s, or in this one we got to go back even farther to the times of Genghis Khan, and so it was fun to research the Bulgars and the Mongols and the whole thing, and the costuming and again, for me, it's like making a movie. It's a lot of work for me. I'm responsible for the biggest meat of it to get it done. I have to sit my ass in the chair, and it's not easy to this day. I'm 61, and I've spent so much time. I've done so much work and spent so much time sitting at a table. So it's, as of late, I'm restless now, and I'm only picking and choosing things here and there to do. But I do love the craft of it, and I love making the movie, and I love making the sets authentic and the costuming. Try, everybody makes mistakes, and but that's the fun part for me is that. So do you have? Can I share something on here?
Sure, absolutely.
How do I do that?
Leo?
Down at
you should. Yeah, there should be a present button on the bottom. Okay. So if you have like and if you have a window open.
All right, let me open something up here, and I'll show you. I'll show you the Lost Book.
Oh, cool!
You can either share. You can either share to full screen or just a window. Just a window may be better for you.
Share the window. Let's see. So sharing works best. Same screen. Let's see. Share screen. Choose window. There we go. All right. Can you see that?
Not yet. As soon as it pops up.
Okay. Hold on. How about now?
Oh, it's coming up. Here we go.
Yep.
There we go. So this is the Lost Book of B. And this is all in the time of Genghis Khan.
Yeah. Awesome. And especially, I mean, I have a degree in history, Ron. So like the detail, like I've always really appreciated when you can tell like people who do historical books or things take place in a certain period when they just did what I kind of call the basic cliff notes of history, but when you can tell they did the research, like how the people dressed.
I spent a lot of time even, getting the shields right, the things the horses wore, the Bulgar uniforms, everything, and I just had a ball trying to create this world. And it's brutal. It's a brutal time, They're boiling B here, in Berserker there.
Right. Yeah. And like I said, you guys are doing that. Jason's doing the Berserker Fistful of Bullets series. So you guys are expanding because, like you said, you have this character that's a half man, half immortal, guy. So it's kind of like the same way I feel like they do with certain characters who've been around a while, like how like Mike Mignola can always pick, a story from a certain period in Hellboy's career and just like, oh yeah, fill in the blank here. You guys have that because he's been around for so long.
And that's the thing. The stories are endless. I mean, you could
exactly
1,000 years. But even like here, I just love doing these cinematic panels. Vistas of landscapes and cinematography, and being a director of cinematography.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
These battle scenes are just,
Well,
I mean, I look at myself. I'm like, how the hell did I draw all that?
Yeah, and also, Ron, you kind of have to look at that now because these days, comic books, they're so marketable now. Like, I like you kind of can understand why like someone like Mark Millar is just so big on rights and talking to things because things get picked up by studios and
Yeah.
Well,
this is already going to be a Netflix movie and TV show, animated series.
Yeah.
And the animated series starts in the fall. It's going to start production in the fall. It's an animated style.
That's awesome.
It's probably sometime next year. The script's been written for the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, this was a ball to draw. I mean, I really tried to make it feel real, and again, I'm just looking at it, not admiring my stuff, but it's just fun to see it be real.
You should admire your work. You're amazing, and that's one of the best things. The best feelings when you're like, you do something and you're like, I'm so proud of me. I did so good.
For me, I want the reader to feel the same sense of like escape, like all these costumes and this, you want to really feel like you're there in the warmth. And I got to give Bill Crabtree all kinds of credit. He's a great colorist. He really works with my stuff very well. We had a couple of talks in the beginning,
mm-hmm.
So I could convey to him what I was thinking, what I wanted. And he's probably the only colorist that once I had those first two talks with, I never had to worry about everything that came in, minus a couple little things, was dead on and really cool.
Right.
I don't mean dead on like I'm taking credit for what he's doing, but I mean just dead on in what he needed to do to complement my pen and ink.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't go overboard with Photoshop coloring or anything. He added just the right amount of lighting, and he's really great, and I'm really happy. See, I love this. This reminds me of Troy. Troy, the armies and the battle, and like Game of Thrones kind of stuff. And yeah, I love this stuff. Anyway,
I'm just amazed by like all the detail and everything. Like you can see everybody's hands and shit, and like everybody's weapons, and everybody's got something different going on their face, and like
this. Oh
wow!
This catapult was the biggest bitch to figure out. It's a combination. I invented it myself by combining a couple of different things because I couldn't find an accurate representation from that time period. So I just made it this gigantic, spiky looking thing that Genghis Khan might have, this page sat for a long time before I went back to finally finish it because I was struggling with trying to figure out how to make the panel work. And but it's great. You see all these dead corpses piled up on top of it, and then they get flung over the wall.
Bravo, sir. Bravo.
Yeah, but
then he comes up out of it like he was they hid him in the corpses like a Trojan horse.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And he pops out of the corpses and starts decimating everyone.
And what it kind of reminds me of is kind of like the attention to detail. Like I saw it and I was like, oh my God, the attention to detail kind of reminded me of the late great Tim Sale. Like sometimes you would just look at Tim's work and he would just have so many details in the background.
Yeah.
And
Tim to me, his sense of composition was inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
I remember seeing the what was it, The Long Halloween or something, and I remember something.
Yeah.
with a biplane, and just the way he put the camera with the cables of the biplane, you know, and it was just perfect composition and beautifully done. I was just blown away by it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's sad because guys like him and now John Cassidy.
Yeah.
You know, it's sad. They're such great talents, you know, and for the same reasons. This year was, I had 300 in my head.
Right.
When the Persians came up on the big beasts and and I just, I draw upon a lot of the influence I have, you know, the things I love, you know, and I wanted this to feel visceral or real, like the same spectacle that we saw in 300. You know, and then the battle scene up here, if you look, all these little things going on, you know, wanted it to feel like real Chinese ancient art, you know.
No,
the elongated necks on the horses and everything has that sort of feel to it. Like I'm half looking at reality and I'm partially just catching a skew of like something I would see on a pot or some sort of wall motif, mosaic of some sort. It's got that.
Yeah, I wanted it to feel ancient. I'm glad you picked up on that. But
you did it.
Great.
So
you did it, Ron. You did
it, Ron. We are proud of you.
Good. Glasses raised for Ron, everybody. The glasses raised. You know.
Just
real quick, El Guapo. Oh shit.
No.
I got ahead of you. Before we went on, I wanted, this had been asked a little bit ago, is the animated series on any specific platform? I just didn't want to leave his question unanswered.
Yeah, it'll be on Netflix.
Okay.
Nice. I'd have that.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I was just gonna be silly, but Ron, are you a gamer?
No, my son is like ridiculous. It's funny because, again, I'm 61 and I played games like, actually there was a game called Berserk that I played back in the early 80s or mid 80s. I played that and I played, stuff like Asteroids and things like that, and then I got addicted to Pac-Man for a while, really bad, like where I'd go to bed and I remember one day playing it for 12 hours straight.
Jeez.
And I went to bed and it was all imprinted on my eye sockets. Like I kept seeing the little, literally the game was in my brain so much. And that's when I knew I had to stop. But the modern stuff, I just watch my son because he's so amazing at it, like Fortnite and all these other things, God of War and all this stuff. And it's amazing to watch him. I mean, he's just next level.
Well, the reason why I brought it up, ask him if he has this game. It's called Ghost of Tsushima. And
I don't think he does, but I'll ask him.
Yeah, it's actually your artwork reminds me a lot of it. It's Genghis Khan as he's taking on the samurais, and
cool. There's
one lone samurai that has to like go against his beliefs in order to like save his country.
Wow.
It's extremely violent, and the artwork in the game, it's extremely beautiful.
What's
but your
art again, God of
Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of
Tsushima.
We'll send it to you.
Awesome. Yeah, please do.
Yeah, I got you, buddy.
Yeah, this was a fun page to do, again, trying to make it authentic and feel real, like the staircase and it's a mix and match of different things I could find. And then I created this whole thing, this palace myself.
Their architecture is so delicate and purposeful, very simplistic, but then like with those columns you have it gives the envisionment of being very strong, yet at the same time some things are made out of paper and that just looks, sorry, I geek out over this stuff, but yeah. I love all the, you can see it that way.
It was kind of a stone staircase and I changed it because I'm like, no, if it's a palace, it's going to have all what you just said. It's going to have the windows and the and the banisters and the things like the ancient stuff. So I had a ball drawing this sequence here.
Nice.
And here he's talking to Genghis
Oh, the
Khan.
cranes.
And he's high on opiates. Yeah, this I added myself. Because here's the dialogue. We are conquerors. You should be basking in glory. We are spreading our seeds across the earth. And so, because it was just called for that, they just kept talking. And so I slipped. This is where I try to add things. And I just thought it would be a nice, with this dialogue, we are spreading our seed across the earth to show these cranes. Because in Japanese culture, cranes are a symbol of life. And they, I actually have a tattoo on my shoulder of two cranes holding a branch of the tree of life in it. When my first daughter was born, it's me and her. And so when I read that, it struck me that way. So that's why I designed this panel that way, to support the dialogue in a more interesting metaphorical fashion, and then we cut back. It's a nice break from them, and we see the life going by, and they're this beautiful setting, and then, so anyway, we cut back in, and then
boom. Just anyway. Look, this is gorgeous.
Yeah, don't put yourself down, Ron. It's great. Believe, man. Believe in yourself.
I'm not putting myself down.
I know. It's all good. But no, but we're coming up on an hour.
Really, an hour already?
Yeah, it's already an hour, man. We're just having so much fun. You're like, wow, this thing is great. More people should drink it.
If you have time, could I ask you questions about 3 specific panels? It's not like, do you remember what you were doing when you wrote this? It was about technique used on them. And so, okay, this is the first one. I gave him to Leo ahead of time, so he'd be ready. Over on the cover there, you did that cover, correct?
Yeah, the adamantium.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. When you drew the claws, I know obviously the inking makes it a lot greener, but you use those. I just had him choose this one because it's a large amount of claws. But throughout it, they have the like laser claws versus Wolverine's adamantium claws. But how did you draw? Was it just kind of like lines, and then like, oh, the colorist is going to go over them, or did you have very specific widths and stuff?
No, it's just lines, and then you erase. You use an eraser, and just try to create a dull toe with an eraser, like a kneaded eraser, and then the colorist just picks up off that. Okay. It's a great effect. I mean, it really looks cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all. That's all it is. It's all pencil. That's an actual pencil where it's not ink.
Oh wow. Okay.
I did that whole series in pencil. Because at that time I was experimenting a lot with different techniques, and I wanted to just try just printing pencil, because there's something extraordinarily beautiful about it when it's done correctly. If it's not done right, it can look like a disaster because it's so rough. But when it's done right, it's actually a very beautiful way to get texture and things like that. And also, I was getting a little bit, if you know, in my career at that point, I worked with just inkers all the time. And I was getting tired of it because I felt like it was never 100% me. Because it was always and nothing against the inkers I worked with. I mean, they're all great, whatever. But it's never fully you. And I, as an artist, I want it to be me. That's expressing this that I'm giving out. And so I stopped using inkers, and I just started playing around with pencil. And then I eventually just started inking my own work. So it was just fully me. So, and that's the result of that.
I was going to say this, like, there's a lot of red, and the inker did a good job, but just how did you plan to lay out every single one of the back panels when you had that laying on top of it? Was it, I mean, it had to be somewhat difficult to fit everything in as people are going in order to look at it, but
I've always played
this needed to be recognized.
I've always played around with these kinds of layouts. I mean, there's one that I did in the Hulk that I did with John Byrne, which was, to backtrack for a second, was a goof that I started working with him. But where the Hulk is busting through the pages and all the panels are flying apart, and it's a similar layout. There's just all these panels, and the Hulk's just busting through, and and I did all the action going on in each of those. There's like 60 panels on it, and it's similar to this. And it's just one of those things, I laid it out, and I just try to figure out a way to make the composition pleasing, and then you just work it all in there. There's no real secret to it. I just kept working at it until I got it the way I wanted it to look. So
I just love how you were able to put so much into the small things behind it to build the whole story up in the one page. Like, I mean, I've seen some great splash pages, but having the whole kind of like the timeline of the fight, but it all be instants, if I'm making sense at all.
No, I know what you mean. Like snapshots in time, but there's, you try to create a sense. Again, you were saying something about the space where you could have word balloons and stuff, but again, it's about the composition, and the trick is making each panel breathable enough that you can read it in sequence and not have your eye be confused. It's a harder thing to pull off than a lot of people realize, because I've seen, some, layouts like this where it's so busy that you can't tell what's going on. But I really make an effort to try to make it clear, at the same time have a lot in there. And it's just about pulling the camera back and moving in and back again, and close-ups and alternating space so it's breathable, and then giving them that big punch in the gut with the double spread of the two big figures, to make it impressive. So I could have just handled that. I could have just handled that without putting the big figures in, but I just wanted to do something different, So
it's great. And I have one last one, Leo. Sorry if I'm bugging you about things that seem weird.
No. I love
it's because I don't understand.
I don't get to look at stuff too much and talk about it, so I haven't even looked at this in years. So it's cool to see.
Okay, so this is my weird question on this one, and especially now that you're saying it was just done in the pencils going through. With the helicopter coming in and we see the shadowing going, I mean, obviously some of that is the colors going in, but when you did like the shadows below, and when you did the propellers, how they kind of fade out, was there just like little tad bits of propeller going out, or was that something entirely done afterwards by the color that they kind of faded it out? Or
no, I indicate it, I'll take the pencil and I do a very blurry, smudgy sort of gradation, and then I just tell the colors to use a filter in Photoshop, a blur filter, which in Photoshop it's a thing called a blur filter, and you can just run you take a piece of it and you surround it with a lasso, and then you just use a blur filter that adjusts the blur on it. It's a beautiful thing you can use. I mean, we live in a day and age with technology that this kind of stuff can happen, so that's basically how that's done. But it starts with a smudgy pencil.
And you use so much in this series of the shading, and you do like a lot of if you can't, you guys might not be able to see it so well depending on what size of a screen you're looking at, but when you go into some of these panels, the hair, the shadows on the face, the shadows on, I'm like pointing, nobody can see where my finger's going, on the missile array and stuff are done in very thin, like hatching and cross hatching and things like that to emphasize the coloring on it, the shading on it. It's amazing. Thank you. Well, in depth, like when you said you were doing it from the pencil, I was just like, seriously, wait, because I had this one to ask you about, and it was like, wow.
Yeah, well, I do the pencil. I was doing the pencils, and you have to make sure it's tight. Like if you look at the male figure with the knife in the splash page, those lines are very delineated and deliberate. So they can be adjusted in digitally, so they mimic inking. That's why you have to be very careful and make sure and the crane and all those things have to be very deliberate, the lines, and then I can get into the shading and the penciling on other things. But it's it's a great technique, and I would just adjust it to the darkness that I wanted the colorist to be able to work with, and then leave it just enough for him to adjust if he needed to. But I had a very deliberate, thing in my head of how dark I wanted it to be, and then give it to the colorist that way, so they couldn't mess it up. But yeah, it's a great effect. I love looking back at this. It's awesome.
So how much control do you have over the coloring when it goes in? So, I mean, you aren't the colorist, but are you able to give the palette, or is that something that is worked on with a team of you? Like, oh, this is the feel we're going, let's use this one, or?
No, I mean, a lot. I mean, I worked with this guy, Matt Miller, and Matt was a real champ because I was heavy on him a lot. But when it was all said and done, it was gorgeous, but I really had things in my head that I wanted a certain way. And he was very good about, taking the feedback and wasn't defensive at all. And there were other colorists that didn't take it quite as well. One guy almost had a meltdown that I worked with. I don't say his name, where I just backed off because he literally he said he couldn't work the whole day after he got my notes. And I was like, okay. So, so I backed off on him, and, and then once I backed off, he started asking me. And I'm like, well, I don't want to say anything that, because I don't want you to feel like, and then he sucked it up and he got better over time. But Matt was a real champ. And, and like on Daredevil, for instance, Daredevil was one of my favorite things I'd ever worked on, probably in the top one or two. And I had a very specific thing in my head that I wanted to do with the coloring, to the point where I almost didn't do the book because initially it clashed with the editor. And the editor was like, well, I want all these neon colors. And and I'm like, well, look, why don't you just do the book then? That's basically what I said. And she says, oh, no, I just get hired to tell people what to do. I'm like, okay, here we go. I'm like, well, you're not telling me what to do. I got hired to do this. I've been doing this for, 50 something years. Basically, I've been drawing for 50 years and illustrating and coloring. I know what I'm doing. But I quit the book before I even got started, because, and then I went to the editor and said, listen, all the best to you, but this isn't where I want to go with it. He's like, no. And then he went to the editor and they called me back and they were like, oh, absolutely. We get it. Whatever you want to do. Because I had such a strong vision in my head of how I wanted to look. I wanted to look like we were looking through Matt Murdock's eyes through the whole book for the most part, especially the first issue. Cool. So we used a lot of dot patterns and things and sort of hazy monochromatic look with splashes of bright color like reds and, and things like that. So I was sending the colorist a lot of black and white photos with just a blast of red on a rose, for instance. And I said, and that's how I wanted to approach it. I wanted the reader to feel like they were Matt Murdock in a way, So, so I had a very deliberate vision in my head about how I wanted it to look. And it ultimately was, in my view, one of my favorite things I've done, and that I worked with Matt on, and he was great about it. And we really pulled off a really nice, different looking book, I thought. So yeah, I definitely have, even working with on Jason Aaron, I worked with Jason Keith, the colors. He's great, and he was very good about taking the feedback too. And by the time I got to Berserker, I had to suck it up because Keanu was very, very. I'd never worked with anybody like that before. Mm-hmm. No, I never got notes really from writers ever, but Keanu was a completely different animal. He was like, yeah, and I didn't. It was funny because I initially thought he was just branding it, but it was the complete opposite. He was very involved and very, and we would talk and, go over things. And a couple of things I'd disagree with him on, not too many. Most of the time it was good feedback or, but it was always just because he had something in his head he wanted a certain way. Yeah, so you have to be that way and be professional. That's what you're in it for.
Right.
Yeah. And I try to convey that to the colorists and I have to, walk the walk myself, so. That's the way it is. Some guys aren't. I remember I talked to colors years ago, way back on JLA, and I asked him if he was okay with me giving, because I didn't like the way the coloring was looking. He looked like he was phoning it in and just barely putting any effort into it. He was just putting in flat, like a flatter. He must have had a flatter or something. Very flat, unimpressive coloring, and plus it was on newsprint. So if it was going to be on newsprint paper, then he needed to put a little more effort into it. And I didn't say that, but I did ask him if he was okay with it. And he goes, yeah, if it fits in with my style. So I was like, yeah, okay, I can see where this guy's a prima donna, And I mean, I thought that was really nice. So I just didn't even bother with it after that. So,
Well, thank you. I ask a bunch of tedious questions, I know, but I love it when you answer.
I talk a lot because I'm cooped up so much. I don't get to talk.
It's all good. So
I get to roll all this stuff out to you guys.
It's all good. We appreciate it.
These questions here on this.
Yeah. So we appreciate. So we're coming up on that time. So thank you so much, Ron, for taking the time to speak with us. It was just absolutely fantastic. And before we get
comments.
Yeah. And before we go, what's the best way for Leo, you're not asking about Bluesky.
What?
All right, go, Leo.
No. I normally ask everybody if where do you like people interacting with you? And it's also a follow-up is, are you using Bluesky? Because I'm trying to push Bluesky.
What's Bluesky?
Thank you. Thank you.
It's a social media
Good
platform
job,
that's
Ron.
going nowhere.
Good job.
I'm being serious.
No worries. It's like it's like Twitter, but it's like without all the like negative stuff from Twitter.
Yeah,
because it hasn't gotten there yet.
I read things, and I'm not going to get into any because people have all their points of view of everything. But man, it's amazing how Twitter, how it's brainwashed the entire population of the earth into thinking that the world revolves around their opinions, and how brave it's made them, and how shitty it's made them, and how it's brought out the worst people. And it's a real sad state of affairs. No matter what your opinions are or what you believe in one political spectrum or the other, I won't get into any of that. But what I will say is just how shitty people are behaving,
Yes.
And it's sad because you're not going to walk up to somebody on the street and talk to them that way.
No.
Right.
And the world doesn't revolve around your opinions. Your head does. Only your head is revolve around your own opinion.
Right.
And so it's sad, and it's okay to have an opinion. And we all do, but don't think that you don't allow your opinion to be injected with an undercurrent of smug, distasteful, rude rhetoric. You know what I mean? It's just sad. Because I remember a world not so long ago before that, before, and things were a lot more polite, and a lot less contentious, and a lot less, so it's hard to stomach a lot of it now. But I do it because I don't get involved in political discussions or anything like that. But I use it for my work, and I try to present my work to people, and but you can't help but read what people are saying, and it's pretty crappy. So.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, nothing but love from this end. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But regarding social media, what is the best way, people can get in touch with you if they want or anything? Just, in case anybody here was like, wow, that Ron Garney guy is really cool. I want to follow his work. And they were like, here.
Ron Garney's a dickhead.
No. Well, we did not say that. We did. Yeah, we're not getting canceled for that one.
It wouldn't be the first time. Yeah, I honestly just the usuals. I'm on Instagram. Instagram's a great utility because it, aside from again all that stuff I was just talking about, it's like the equivalent of being a musician playing on stage for people, but it's for an artist. You get to put your art on there, and it's like playing a song, and you get people liking it or not, and the trick is to not allow the amount of likes you get or attention you get to dictate whether it's good or not, because, it's all algorithms and how much, a lot of people are using it to show technique, and they tend to get a lot of play and a lot of likes and things, but I don't have time for that. I've got kids, and, so I'm not as committed in that fashion, but I do post things. So it's nice to let people see what I'm doing and to get, it's nice to get the positive feedback. I love the fans. The fans are the best, because I was saying this on stage at the San Diego Con recently. We ended our panel, the Berserker panel, and for whatever reason, Keanu looked at me and asked me to say the last word. So I just said that, and I mean this, that it's about you guys, in that we live in a time where, it's very special that I get to hear from people how positive what I'm doing is affecting them in such a cool way. And they're so enthusiastic, and they, like yourselves, and you're posting my work and talking about it and being so fascinated with it. And I feel very fortunate, that we live in a time that I get to hear that. Who wouldn't love to have people walk up to you and say, how great your stuff is or your work, so it's an amazing thing. So I am eternally grateful for you and for the fans and for everybody who, take the minutes to read it and to offer their love for it. So nothing but love back. So
awesome. Well said,
We
sir.
highly appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Ron Garney is a class act, everybody. Definitely worth the listen.
Yeah, fuck all you guys. Fuck all this romantic bullshit. Yeah, the fans suck. Shit heels, motherfucking shit.
So we're going to have a clip now of your intro followed by, and at the end of the show.
Yeah. Ron, what a perfect bookend.
Yeah, exactly. Well, but seriously, Ron, thank you so much for joining us. This is awesome. We'll definitely, we'll keep an eye on everything, and honestly, again, if you have new stuff coming out, we'd be more than glad to have you back on the show.
Thank you very much, gentlemen and lady. My lady.
Yeah. Yep. And squirrel. And squirrel.
Leave the studio and then press upload, right?
Yeah.
Leave studio and then upload. If there's an issue, I'll send a link to Drew to send to you afterwards. So if something messes up, don't worry about it. You'll get a link later where you can complete the upload.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, people.
All right. Thank you very much.
So nice to meet you, sir. Have a good
evening.
evening.
Good to see you again, buddy. Have a good one.
All right. Leave an open uploads page.
Yep. There we go.
Sure.
I'm turning into a fangirl for everyone at this point.
Hold on a second. You're welcome.
Thank you.
I didn't want to bring this up during the show, but like Berserker. Hold on. I was thinking of asking him, where did the idea come from if he talked to Keanu about it? Like, we did get the sad Keanu frame. I love that they put that in there. But is the whole thing about Berserker being an immortal because people think Keanu's an immortal?
Hold on. Wait. I can answer that because I didn't get to do my impression. So hold on. I think that is the most excellent question, Leo. But you would have to ask the real Keanu, not me, Theodore Ted Logan. But I do hope that you party on and have a most excellent day.
He came back.
Ron's back.
Ron, you decided to join us for news.
This is my son, actually. When I went to, it's my boy. He's the gamer.
Hi.
What's the game? It was Ghost.
Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah, I played it.
Yeah.
There you go. See? Good taste, everybody.
Yeah, show it to your dad because what he showed us with the artwork reminded me of the game. Absolutely love the game. And are you playing Black Myth Wukong?
I'm not, but I heard it's really good.
Oh my God, it's so good. Definitely try it out.
I will. Definitely.
You can't come over this way so you can see it. There you go.
Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to the podcast where we tell you what to play.
Yes.
Well, he's already playing this stuff. It's like I'm so impressed with him with the things he does, like the way he can play them. It's just amazing. I'm a sort of retarded in that fashion. Stuff. I mean, I can play it. I just don't put the energy like he does. Anyway, so I came back because I left the studio and then it said that an error had occurred.
Okay.
Oh.
So
yeah,
should I try it again?
Yeah, give it a try. So leave studio and then and if it errors out again, don't worry about it. I'll send you a link afterwards. You just need to open it up on the computer that you used to for tonight's call.
Okay, so leave studio and then press
the uploads.
Well, it didn't say. It said leave and upload. It said.
Leave and upload. Yep.
Okay. All right. See you guys.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, son of Ron Garney.
Sir.
Oh.
Son of Garney.
Hey,